I want to talk about something. I just posted a video of me working through some techniques from the Medusa edged weapon system. And I know that when you're posting things about edged weapons combatives, man, I know I look like an insane, crazy person training to do terrible things. But there is a value to that training, right? Not saying that this is going to happen to you, but it's good to understand the worst case scenario of violence, which most of us will never face. Actually, most of us, quite honestly, this is a level of first force that not very many people ever have to deal with. And the skills that are more applicable for everyday self-defense are avoidance, awareness, de-escalation, and escape. The other thing you can get from a system like Medusa is the idea of initiating with shock, the idea of hitting first. If you have to stick to the person and fight them because you're buying time for someone else to get away, or if you're going to shock and run, shock and trip, you can do so much. But that initial shock, from the formula of shock, latch, and stab, can evolve into so many different things. Doesn't have to be that worst case scenario. This kind of stuff, you have to be real selective about who you teach. It's good to understand how those tactics work, so make it harder for someone to use against you, right? And there's a lot of things that I've taught that I've never used, but I've had students come back to me. I've had students come back to me and say they, got in a bad situation, disarmed a knife, disarmed a blunt impact weapon, or got a weapon and was able to use it against multiple attackers, things like that. So you never know who's gonna take this stuff and have to use it, but we have to be very honest with our students, with our people, about what real violence looks like. And this is a great system for teaching that. This is a great system for teaching how ugly the worst case scenario violence can be. And you could also use the Medusa system as a starting point to teach knife defense. So teach the system and then work on some ways to try and counter it, which is very hard because, that level of aggression is hard to counter. But if we're working on defense against edged weapons, then you need to be realistic about it. So having that as your base for what you're going to work against is a very realistic way of teaching edged weapons defense. Do I think everybody is going to have to use that one day in their life? No, I think hardly any people will have to use that one day in their life. But if someone ever is in that situation, I would want them to have the best information, the best skills that they could possibly have. And this is just one small, very small ingredient to building those skills, building tactics, building broader tactics, and building a better skill set for self-defense. So it does have value. It's hard to train with that mindset. It is not something I will have on my mats all the time, because for me, it is quite dark and it does hurt my emotional health when I think in those ways all the time. But to understand this kind of violence, even though we're just doing it in a gym, and gym's like a violence laboratory, and to understand this kind of violence and what it could look like is very helpful for people like me who believe in being our own first responder. We are the only ones who can keep ourselves safe when violence kicks off. The police can't be there. You can call 911, but it takes them time. And I mean a lot of time when you're in a situation where you have to survive. If you believe in being your own first responder, you need to have a good idea at how ugly shit can get, how ugly things can be. And this really helps with that. And that's why I'm really happy to have that as part of my skill sets, so I can be a better instructor when it comes to self-protection. Thank you. Another thing this kind of training can do is be cathartic. If you're having a bad week and you're stressed out, this kind of stuff just really lets you vent your stress. And while I love doing combatives, this is what I love the most: training martial arts with a partner and doing carenza or ensayo and flowing with my sticks. And this is what most of my training will be. This or holding pads for Thai boxers. But every once in a while, I know that it is good to visit the down and dirty and understand the realities of what violence can look like. And while I practice an art, I also am a combatives and self-defense instructor at times. For me, while that is very important, it is secondary to being a martial artist.